So today we're going to talk about welders. I'm not a welder, but for some reason we sure do a lot of welding, and we get a lot of welding equipment. Doesn't make me an authority on welding, it just means I have a lot of it, so take it for a grain of salt as what it is. I only know what I've been taught recently and things that try to make my stuff better, and I'm going to try and share some of that stuff with you guys. And everybody knows who watches me any amount of time that we work with HTP, and we have the ProPulse 220, the Microcut 45 plasma cutter. We have the Invertig 251. We also have another HTP welder that we have got recently, and we're going to be doing a big project with it. And of course, we haven't announced that project yet because it's going to be a little later, probably in the fall. But from time to time, we get people that would like to get into welding, but they're not a guy who can afford or justify the high quality and the cost of a great machine. They're looking for an inexpensive option. Well, I watched Carl Fisher at Make It Custom, and he had this company send him this welder, one like this, not this one in particular, but the same model. And he put it through the paces, and it's a economical, over-the-pond built welder. So when they contacted me and asked me if I'd be interested in taking a look at it after watching Carl's and the results he had, I figured it may be a cost-effective option for guys who are looking to get into some of this stuff but really can't justify the cost of high-quality machines for your weekend, do it 2-3 times a year type of deal. So I told them send it to me, and they offer it in several different ways: the basic model, basic package, the next package, and the luxury package. They sent me the luxury package, which is everything. Now they call this, I believe, a 10-in-1 machine, and I'll screw up all of the abbreviations for what those are, but for ease of myself and you understanding, it does flux core MIG, it does dual shield MIG, it does standard shielded gas MIG, it does TIG welding, it does stick welding, it does plasma cutting, it does aluminum with a spool gun. The TIG has a foot pedal. The luxury package comes with everything you see here: the ER 4043 wire, flux core wire 30 thousandths. This is the aluminum wire at 40 thousandths. This is the mild steel flux core wire at 30 thousandths. It comes with your stinger for doing stick welding, a liner for this gun for doing aluminum if you choose, different tips and consumables that you will need, the different rollers based on what wire you're using, whether it's flux core wire, standard short circuit gas shielded MIG wire, or aluminum wire. You have tungsten protectors and cups for the TIG weld, the hose for the regulator for the plasma cutter, and a pressure gauge, and some consumables for the plasma cutter here. Plasma torch, a new toothbrush, the TIG torch itself, which has a button on it, that's pretty neat. The foot pedal, which I'm not sure about the foot pedal. I thought I read somewhere that somebody said that's backwards. We'll have to see. Instead of pushing down to get more power, they said you had to come up. I wasn't sure about that. And then the spool gun itself for doing aluminum. It came with this welding helmet, and as you can see, it's scratched up because we have been using it, and I must tell you, I said this in an earlier video, this has got to be the nicest helmet, the best working helmet I have ever used. Comes with some gloves, a bag to keep some of your stuff in, a hose for your gas line, the MIG gun, which as you can see is dirty because we've been using it, and your working clamp here. It is a dual voltage machine. It has an adapter, and this company does it correctly. They put the 50 amp on this end, and then your adapter will go from 110 up to this 50 amp plug, which that's the way it should be, not like some of the others we had, which were backwards. So we're going to move this over to the welding table. I've been using it with the flux core wire that it came with, and we're getting some pretty good results. We had a couple of folks here from Massachusetts helping us on the cab over build, and on the last day I asked them if they want to fool around with that new welder, so we took a few hours and we were playing around. But we've been using that welding helmet probably now for 2 weeks. It's just incredible. I just love it. So I have the flux core wire set up in the machine. It's just a little bitty spool. And we're gonna do a little bit of that, and we'll get through the process on the front of it over at the welding table, and we'll start doing some stuff. Stick around. Okay, we are all plugged in. We're still on flux core still, so we don't need to hook up any gas yet. Go. Let's see what we get. Now again, I've been using this a little bit, so you know, I got a little familiarity with it. So you can see here we're set. It has a memory. It's set on the last thing we did, and there we go. So there's our different MIG settings. This is, if you can read that, it's CO2 100%, argon 100%, mixed gas for MIG, pulse MIG, high frequency TIG, plasma cutter, flux core, we're back to the beginning, stick weld. So if we want to change any of these parameters, like we push this, we can change our wire from 35 thousandths. 23 is the smallest, 30, 35, we're running 35. And 2T is, as long as you pull the trigger and hold it, you're welding, you let up again, and you're not welding. If you go to 4T, you pull the trigger and let up, and it continues to weld until you pull the trigger and let up again, then it stops. We don't use 4T, so we'll go back to 2T. And then you can set it in memory if you want to. And then if you're done with all that, we can go back to home and change our process that we want to use, which we're going to be using flux core today. So we'll choose that. And boy, I can't remember what our settings were before. I was looking for synergic settings. I'm not sure where to find that quite yet, but we'll see. So we're going to be working with basically, maybe 1/4 inch is what we've been playing with. So 1/4 inch, what do you think? Let's go 165 amps, 17.5 volts. Let's see what that does. We were messing with this the other day, and John was welding, and he got some pretty good results. You can see we're just about flat in there. It's not concave. It has a little bit of concave being this way. It doesn't have much of that. It has just a little bit of a crown and convexed. Not a lot. But anyways, that's what we were messing with. These were his tests as we were trying to dial the machine in a little better. But anyways, let's see what we can do. So I've been running through the flux core, and I got 3 passes in here and 3 passes on this other side. You can see where I kind of started and stopped. Just changing settings, trying some things, because I don't do any flux core welding by itself. I do a lot of dual shield, which would mean it's not the same flux core wire. Like your standard flux core wire is only meant to be used in most cases just as a flux core. If you want to use dual shield, like the method we use so often on truck frames and anything we do with trucks, that usually requires a specific wire that the manufacturer has made to use with the flux core and the shielding gas. So a lot of people think you can just use regular flux core wire and just add gas, but it's not the case. The way the flux core wire is made for just flux core, it has certain properties about it that bring the impurities up and dissipates some things, and if you use that with regular shielding gas on top of it, you can actually make the weld less quality or not as intended. So don't make the mistake and try and just use any old flux core wire. Make sure you get the right stuff. Every manufacturer has a specs for their wire, and I'm learning more about this as we go, and I just keep reading more and more on the packages as we get them. So the next thing we're going to do is go over to shielded gas MIG welding. So we have to change the wire, and then we'll put put the shield back on. We need a nozzle here so we can direct our shielding gas. That's the whole reason that you have a nozzle here, is so you can get your shielding gas to come over your weld as you're welding and basically protect it from the atmosphere as it cools, so you get less impurities or anything in the atmosphere into your puddle. So let's get this changed over, and we're going to have to change over to a gas bottle as well. So we're going to change our wire out, and it's important to note the flux core wire has a powder inside it. So when you go to store this, it's going to have a shelf life, right? Because it's just like your salt shaker, your sugar jar, whatever. It will collect moisture. When it gets moisture inside that flux, then your weld suffers. So a lot of times you can, vacuum seal this, put it in the house, keep it warm, something like that. If you're not going to use, or just buy small rolls that you'll use up and you don't mind throwing away if it's no good. The other thing is, there's a tendency to want to just flip the thing open and just back wind your spool and just put this back on it. The problem is, this roller being knurled, it makes knurled marks on here, and it's not smooth. So when it goes to the roller, you could hit it again on knurled marks. It could break, it could get stuck. To me, it's just not worth it. So I just pull it all out, wind it up and throw it away, and go with another roll. Get ready. These things are not horribly expensive, that's for sure. So now we're going to get set up for the larger spool. So we're going to put this back on, like so. And then there's a washer and a spring and a nylock nut to go on there. So we got to get all that back together real quick and get some wire, make our changes. So this is the wire we're going to run. It's a Victory 70S-6, ER70S-6 is what you see. It's a 35 thousandths diameter wire. It's an 11-pound spool, and you see these little spots here, these holes that are molded in here. They coincide with this little tab right here, and we want this to go into here, so this whole thing moves with the roll. Okay, when it moves with the roll, then this doesn't get any tighter as it rolls, right? It's able to just go on. So we'll put that in here. Let's see if we can get it straight up and down, maybe make it a little bit easier. And if we're in, we should be able to lift it, and it should turn, and it does. So we're good there. Make sure we got our wire on correct, which we don't. I'm laying on the top, so we gotta flip that around. We need to be wire off the bottom. Let's do that again. It's our first day here in the shop. Okay, and we'll set that up. Now you see the whole thing moves by itself. Now we're gonna go this way. See how it's moving a little bit. Tighten that up some more. We'd like to be snug so that this can stay on here. So now we got to feed this through the roller, but before we can do that, we need to change out the roller from our knurled roller to the smooth roller. Now these are marked in metric, so you've got 0.8 here, and you got 0.9 here, or 1.0. I wonder if there's another roller. Usually it's 0.8, 0.9. Why do we have 1.0? Let me go look and see about the rollers. So I looked in one of the welders I had given my son, and it had a 0.9, 0.8 roller in it, so we're going to borrow that for the time being. But I just noticed something. Not a big deal here, but this one's kind of magnetic. I wonder if it was run. Yeah, it's magnetic. Not strong enough to pick that up, but look. It's trying. That's probably not a good thing. We don't want to magnetize anything. It'll just make metal shards stick to that, any dust and debris. We don't want that, so we're going to have to demagnetize this roller. I'm looking at the rollers that they sent with this, and we've got one roller for flux core, which that's the knurled, as you saw here. So because there's that powder in the center, that wire can collapse. So it's got these knurls on there so they can bite into it and push it. So one thing I failed to mention was if you pulled that wire back out of your gun and tried to refeed it through, there's a good possibility that as this grabs that wire that's already been crushed and kind of damaged, you could literally break off outside shards, like little splinters of metal, and shove them in your liner. So that'd be another reason why you wouldn't want to do it. But I'm making a chart here to put inside the welder that will outline our metric to fractional, to our decimal inches of what we want. And what I'm noticing is they sent a roller, because we have three types of rollers, right? We have the knurled, and then we have the traditional. I don't know if you'll be able to see this, if it'll focus well enough. That's a V groove, okay? Probably hard to tell in there, but that groove is cut in a V. Yeah, it shows up there. And then that's used on your solid, like regular steel welding. We get into aluminum and you have a different roller, and if you can tell, that roller is a U shape. So instead of it coming down sharp like this, because the aluminum is so much softer, it's a U. Now this machine is set up to do pulse MIG for aluminum, but the problem I'm coming across here, and maybe I'm not understanding something, the options are 40 thousandths and 35 thousandths. You can't do 45 thousandths, but the roller they send us is 0.9 and 1.2, not 0.9 and 1.0. We would want 1.0. You see how it's noted there, the U? That U designates right there in that roller how it's cut, and it's meant just for aluminum. You can see it's in a different type of writing as well, so it'll be easy. These are stamped, and this looks like it's kind of printed on there. So anyways, we're making a chart just so we can put it inside the box, the door here, and that way it's always there. So when we want to make changes, you know, we don't have to fumble around, because we have several different machines and I'm getting older. So I put all the notes everywhere I can. So let me get that on there. So now we have our 0.9 roller. We got to make sure we see the difference in the two of them, and this one is definitely a larger, so we got to make sure that one goes in correctly. So the 0.9 is going to be in line with where the actual wire goes in. So don't make the mistake of making a 0.9 out here, because you can read it, because you got to look at your feed and see where it needs to go. So I need to set the tension on this just enough that it needs to pull, but it doesn't spin freely. Like when it stops, you want it to stop, and we adjust that by that spring back up in here. So we're going to turn it just a little bit at a time as I'm feeding that wire up through the liner. Now you can feed that wire by just pulling the trigger. I want to see as I'm feeding it if it stops. I don't want to have a lot of drag on it. I just want it to be enough. See how it kind of is going on its own right there? I need a little more tension. I don't want it to do that, because you end up with a big old mess in here. This is the best way I found to do it. See how easy that's moving? Get it going pretty good, and yeah, it'll do that. So we'll just add a little more tension when we're ready. Then we'll close this down, because then it'll tell us exactly what we have. Close it down, lock it, and set our tension. So the way I was taught by Peter to set tension is you hold your finger on the edge of the gun, and you should be able to stop the wire from coming out. It should spin in here if we're set correctly on our solid core MIG wire. So let me get all that set up, and then we got to get some gas hooked up. So to feed the wire through the gun, we're just going to take the tip out of it to make it simpler, and then we're going to try to adjust. Let's see, we're on mixed gas. Let's see, get our inches per minute up. See our inches per minute increasing. So then we'll just straighten the gun out. We have no gas hooked up, so we're going to run a lot of wire real quick. I can feel it coming. And once we get out here, we'll put our tip on. There we go. Put the tip on. Now we need the gas shield, nozzle. And let's get some gas hooked up. So we're set up now. We got our regulator set up to our CO2. So it's a 75-25 mix, and we want to be about 25 CFH, cubic feet per hour. But that is with the trigger being pulled. So we want to pull the gun. There we go. That's where we want to be. So now we'll get set up with some steel, and then we'll get in our settings. We'll see what we can get, and where we're going to be. We're on 35 thousandths, 200 inches a minute. We could do 200. We could do a quarter-inch plate with this. Let's see what we can find. Almost made a rookie move again. Look at that. It's not flux core anymore, so we have to make it electrode positive, clamp negative. That would have been a mess. So we just take the DINS connector and twist them. Okay, so we're going Stinger, electrode positive. So we're going to take the DINS connector. This one is what feeds our wires. We're going to take that out. Run our DINS connector into the positive. We're still using that same working clamp.
Whatever MMA means.
20 amps, 13.7. So we have to figure out our settings and see now. I've never done any stick welding at all. We have to figure out what amperage we need for what voltage. And that rod says, what do you say, 90 to what? 100 and
90 to 165.
so let's go 100. You think?
Yeah, try that.
Try that and see what it is. We're just using a 70-18 rod, which is probably a little bit big for what we're doing, but who knows? I guess we'll find out soon enough, huh? Being as though we've never done this before. I think the attraction to a lot of people for stick welding is you can do it anywhere. The wind can be blowing. It's not, you don't have to worry about your shielding gas getting blown off, and you only need just the welder and electric, and you can go to town.
And the material doesn't need to be clean.
Yeah, you can do it on crap like this. If you can get it started. Probably should have started with something clean. Huh? To make it easier.
I don't think that really does make it any easier.
Well, we'll see in a minute. Whew. Well, that's interesting. Let me tell you, it's a lot harder to get going than I thought it would be.
Turn it up a little.
I think 110, 120.
Try 125. I've always heard if it sticks, it's because there's not enough current to melt it.
Well, I'll tell you, don't put your hand that close.
Well, you're also wearing a TIG glove, so.
Yeah, it's okay. I'll just go a little farther away. Because all I was doing was trying to get away from the heat. See? Okay, it's interesting. In a mess. Like we're way too hot, maybe. But slag is sharp. I don't know. Maybe not.
I think you might just be heat soaked on the material.
Maybe. See if we can get something out here now. All them guys that have stick welded all their life, they're like, boy, you're making this too hard. I've been running 70-18 rods since I was knee-high to my granddaddy's grasshopper. Garbage. Whew. It's getting hot.
gotta switch gloves.
We're gonna call Nate.
Hey, this is Nathan. I'm not able to get to the phone right now. Leave me a message and I'll call you back.
At the tone, please record your message. When you have finished recording, you may hang up or press 1 for more options.
Nate, help! Call us back. We're trying to do some stick welding. We don't know what we're doing.
I need somebody help.
We need some help, Nate. Give me a call back when you can. Okay, you want to get a stick and try this?
Sure.
See if you can do better than the mess that I just made. I'm gonna clean this up, see how bad it really is. Okay, so it doesn't look as bad and hurt and after the flux is off as it did before, but it's still pretty bad. Yeah.
I don't know, because it's a stick weld. I mean, it's not going to look like a TIG weld or a MIG weld, so.
Yeah. I mean, I would just be happy to see some consistency here.
Yeah.
Anyways, let's try it again. Okay. That's something. Something consistent at least. Right?
Other than consistently bad.
I ain't so upset about that either.
No?
I can tell you I'm pretty happy about that. You know, this one here and this one here, that's not so bad.
Yeah.
Maybe with some practice we get somewhere, but I think I've had enough of stick. How about you?
We'll finish this rod.
Yeah, you can finish off your rod, but I'm gonna get ready for TIG because I'm far more excited about TIG. How about you?
I don't know. I've only done it once or twice.
You're burning on the bottom side. Oh, you went around the hole?
Yeah. I don't know if it's going to look like anything, but I tried something different.
Yeah. All right, we're gonna let that cool and we're gonna get set up for TIG welding. We've got the TIG torch. It plugs into here, and there's a connector down here for the switch. This one has a switch here. And we need to assemble this. So this is one big stinker I found so far. Well, actually Brandon found it. We're setting up to run TIG and it just isn't working right and something was wrong. We got to looking and the gas hookup is for MIG only. Over here they use the input for your air pressure for your plasma cutter and the TIG gas on the same one. So you basically have to cannibalize one of your good hoses because it only comes with this hose and these fittings, the barb fittings, and we need it to fit in this regulator. So I'm gonna have to cannibalize one of my good hoses so that I can put the barb fitting on to go into here. That's kind of crappy. Yeah, that's not right. Because everybody uses the same style of gas hose. You know, we don't use this stuff like this. This is stupid. They need to fix this. So we're going to start taking this apart. We're going to see if we can change this stupid fitting out because having a barb fitting here doesn't work because in order to get to our regulators that we use, it is a ball and seat type of seal like this. So trying to go over to the plasma cutter, you would literally have to take this apart or make a Y with valves or something. This is such a horrible thing. Absolutely horrible. Don't do this yourself. So they run the TIG gas and the plasma cutting air together because they utilize the same port on the front of this. So if you're going to use a plasma cutter, you take this off, which this side is literally just the airflow or gas flow. That's all that side is. And you plug in whichever one you're going to use. So I guess where we're at now is we can...
That's power too.
Yeah.
Power and gas.
Yeah, they'll run power on the outside of that gas line, huh? Anyway, so what we're gonna have to do is come off of here and tee it. So for right now, I hate doing this, but if I'm gonna cut up something to make it work, I'm gonna cut it so it works better than it is. So we need to come off of here with a barb fitting and a tee off for gas and tee off the other way for air, but it need to have a way to shut one off of the other so we're not, you know, blowing air out when we're using gas and blowing gas out when we're needing air, so, or mixing the two. So let's see what we can come up with. I guess we can put this back together, but I think we're going to take advantage of it being apart and remove this cord and replace it with another cord that's longer because we like a longer cord. Yeah, and heavier. But I mean, that cord's fine, you know, for general use, but you know, our 50 amp plugs are up against the shop, so it's not exactly as long as we'd like it to be. So this is a cord we had. We're taking it out, and that's the fitting that was in there, like a 1/2 inch fitting, compression fitting, plastic. So we're going to go to a 3/4 weather tight compression fitting, or not weather tight, but weatherproof. But we got to make the hole just a little bit bigger to get our cord through. Pair of Nipex or something tight to the inside. Put our powers back on the switch here. Make sure it's good and tight. And we got one ground to go on, which is this screw right here. this has to come around this here way and twist, because I need this screw in there, and it grounds to the body. Okay, there we go. Now we have a 50 amp cord, a true 50 amp capacity cord. And the better part is, look how long it is. Now we can have Welder look out.
Should be a good 25 feet.
25 feet, 50 amp, 25. Okay, let's put this thing back together. Amps. We don't need 200 amps. Oh, it won't let us go. You got full pedal. So apparently you can't set a max on your pedal. Once it's on pedal, it's all pedal.
Well, so, there is an adjustment on the pedal as well.
Oh.
So.
It's not adjusting up here though. What's that adjustment?
I don't know. Try that now. Try adjusting the machine now.
1 through 10.
Yeah.
Nope. So apparently that pedals you get near your limits. You have to dial the pedal in. So if you're halfway, that's probably 100 amps, right?
Yeah, that's
we
where.
don't need that. So we're gonna go like there. That's like 1/3. So that should be around. What's the, like 65?
66 amps?
Yeah, what were we at before? Something around here?
I don't know.
Oh, crap. I'm like, that is like way too much. I wonder, didn't somebody say all the way down is less?
Yeah.
It's backwards?
Yeah.
Let's try that. Yep. Still too hot. Way too hot. Jeez, oh Pete. Turn that down to 1. See what that does.
And bump it up just a hair from 1 in case 1 is like nothing.
Nope, still too hot. Way too hot. Let's go to 10.
Maybe it's backwards too.
Man, it's so hot. Oh, look at that. I'm almost pegged. Right there. Alright. So, and now that this pedal's inconsistent, it's not smooth. It's very inconsistent. This is really hard because in order to get this to go low, you have to go almost all the way and then come back. And it shouldn't be that way. It's backwards. And then the other thing is, it's either when you're down all the way, you don't have enough, and then you come up, and then it's way too much. Yeah, look how long it took. Like, it's inconsistent. I can't get a smooth. I would say if I'm going to use this, I'm not using that pedal. All right, we'll see if we can get rid of the pulse now. See if it makes any difference. Oh yeah. adjust. I'm letting up on the pedal, nothing's happening. Well, after doing some tests, what I believe is happening is they are putting the voltage on the wrong side of this. So if we reverse our return voltage, what's actually going back to it through, let's see, these two right here, then we should have it working the other way. I don't really want to cut that solder loose, that heat shrink. So we're going to see if we can take the connector apart. You can see we got two different connectors, a 3 and a 2. So the 2 is that micro switch. You basically just turn it on and off, letting it know it's time to activate. So we're going to take that 3 apart and see if we can just move these inside. So I was able to get this apart, and I got to tell you, I think for as delicate as that is, I'm going to solder in here. I'm going to make my splice change in there. So I've switched these wires and put that dial up all the way to 10, and let's see, this dial will change us. We're at 36. Let's see what it does now. All the way up to 200. That's with the pedal depressed now. Let go of the pedal and we're coming back up. So then we could turn this dial to about halfway. You would think that's going to be around 100. Let's see what we got here. We're at 20 now. About 83, fully depressed. So the pedal's not exactly half and half, but at least the theory's correct, right? We can still limit, now we can limit it through here, and at least it's going the right way. So now I'm going to go ahead and solder this up and heat shrink it real quick. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to let this heat shrink cool real good, and then I'm going to zip tie this out of the way, because this gear, this teeth will come down and keep rubbing against this, and I don't want that. So we're going to tuck this wire underneath this bulk wire, the cable coming in, and we'll do the same thing with all of these and zip tie them, but that I got to wait for that heat shrink to cool before we do it. I got it turned down extremely low. See what it'll give me. I'll get us in the 50-60 range. Okay. Okay. So there's no change a quarter of the way up, so that's a third. Oh, there we go. I'm mashed on it now. So it still is very slow to react. But at least you can limit the pedal right there, so that's okay. It's better, definitely better. At least it's normal now. So much better. However, it's still, this is what I just did here and here, it's still, like you have to give it so much before it actually starts, and it's not real gradual, it's not a real defined or a precise graduation, whatever. you go to add some or take it away, it takes a lot of travel to make any change. But at least it's going the right way now. And you can see it on here as we do it. Ooh, careful. See how it's going up there? There's 7 right there. A little easier. Yeah, it's like it has to wait a minute for it to register before it actually makes a change in the machine. But then again, I'm comparing it to the HTP, which is obviously a pretty high quality machine. But regardless, I mean, that's better. That's definitely better. Let's see what we can do here. I'm gonna go up a little more because I was standing on the pedal there. Halfway, you would think that'd be close to 100. So it's a 200 amp machine. But I don't know. It isn't looking that way based on the dial so far. Yeah. You can't like really let up gradually and let your arc kind of go away. It's so delayed that by the time you think you're coming up gently, you finally get to a point where that micro switch just opens and it stops. But yeah, I mean, it'll do the job. I mean, I'm not a skilled welder of any sort. Anyway, so what I'm doing is, you know, based on experience I have with the HTP. Makes a nice cone of an arc, for sure. Yeah, you can almost see the graduations in the when you let up. Yeah. Anyways, that's fixed. So maybe they'll change that in the future where it's not a problem. They'll rewire it the other way. So let's do an overview of what we've learned about the machine so far. We've changed the pedal and it is a vast improvement. I'm not going to say it's great because now that it is going the right direction, that's one thing, but there's still another problem that when you are changing on that pedal, you are moving a tremendous amount before you see any change in your arc. So, and then what I find is that I'm not seeing a change. I let up more and more, and when it finally does change, it's more like this. It's not like a gradual change. It's more like, okay, there. And then when you get to a certain point letting off, it cuts off the arc instead of dissipating and, you know, gradually coming up. And that's the thing about some of these budget-friendly welders is you don't get the technology and the sophistication you get in the higher quality welders like the HTP stuff that we use. This one, because I've never TIG welded before, I learned on a quality machine, and you get used to doing that quality stuff, so anything less is just, okay, you know it's less. This machine is $999 right now, and it does all those different things. It flux core welds very well. It MIGs, short circuit gas shielded MIGs very well. I'm sure it stick welds good. We just don't have any training stick welding, so, you know, something about a monkey and a football right there. But the TIG welding, we're able to do the TIG welding. I'm going to tell you, I did better by turning off the foot pedal and just setting my amperage and using the switch on the TIG torch and then varying my distance as I needed, closer, farther, as much as I needed to. But overall, like I said, it's one of those things. If you're a guy who does a predominantly gas shielded MIG or flux core MIG, but you would like to learn these other processes, this is probably a cost-effective option. It's not a question of if it can do everything, it's just a question of how long, because, you know, that's typically when you get something that's budget conscious and it's a lower price, that has to come somewhere, and it typically is in components. You know, we're used to now working with HTP and getting these, you know, extremely high quality welders and machines here, so you get to where you're used to a standard. But if your guy's doing it a little bit here and a little bit here, but you'd like to learn how to TIG weld or stick weld or whatever the case, weld aluminum or get a plasma cutter, definitely economical choice for sure. That one's $999. If you figure out how much that plasma cutter costs, how much that HTP welder costs, and how much that Invertig cost, we're probably all set up. We're pushing 10 grand right here in these machines. 10 grand's a lot of money if you don't use it a lot. Now, we use our stuff a lot, so this is cost effective to us. But if you're a guy at home, maybe this is an economic choice. And we haven't even got through all the processes yet. We still haven't done the plasma cutter. But I'm going to hold off and cut the video here because I want to make some changes. I messaged Simder, the representative, and I told him, hey, this is just crap. I mean, this is horrible. That needs to have a second inlet with its own electric solenoid valve that can isolate the input one to the other. The reason they do this is because that line right there literally goes through a valve and then gets fed out the front. So you're changing the source. This is where you would plug in the plasma cutter. So if you're using the TIG welder, well, then you're going to use the TIG gas, and you're going to use that input. However, if they would just put a second inlet here with a solenoid valve and then tee them off, those solenoid valves would be closed with no electric applied, and then when you choose the process in the front as to what you're doing, as soon as you choose that, it could let that flow when it needs to by energizing each individual solenoid valve. So that's a change it needs to make. We don't have that, so I'm going to go get a barbed fitting and a T and a couple of valves that are able to take the kind of pressure that we're going to have. The gas valve will run about 25 cubic feet per hour, and the compressed air, we need about 70 pounds of pressure. So we're going to come out of here, run a T, put a valve with a fitting for the gas line, and a T, off that T, another valve, and a fitting for compressed air. But overall, for the price, and again, you have to consider that for a lot of people right now, I think it's okay, at least so far. We'll bring you along as we make changes, but we'll end this here. I hope you guys enjoyed. I hope there's a lot of information here that could help somebody, maybe not just with this welder or anything you're doing. Things that I've learned recently through Peter that I'd like to share with you guys because I understand the struggle when you're trying to figure this stuff out. Thanks for watching. Catch you on the next one.